Hey there, we're Team Pop. Our sprint team consists of our facilitator, Macy Adams, our decision maker, Jess Sherrington, and our designers, myself, Abbie Hunt, Sydney Hughes, Amelia Newmeister, Erin Hughes, and Lauren Pike. So, our long term goal was that we wanted to help young people transition into the real world, equipping them with life skills and greater financial literacy. We achieved this by creating an app prototype called Launch. The goal of Launch was to gamify the experience of learning about financial literacy and helping young people to feel prepared when they're faced with making big financial decisions in their adult life. In theory, Launch should be a subset of the company Rocket Money and geared towards a younger population with hopes that as they got older, they would switch over to Rocket Money to manage their finances. So, now that you've heard an overview of what's to come, I'm going to pass it off to my friend Jess, and she's going to tell you about the first steps in our process Monday.
Thanks, Abbie. Monday was all about identifying our goal and mapping out our plan. Monday's sprint activities helped us determine a long-term goal and identify the biggest challenges to reach it. We want to help young people transition into the real world by equipping them with life skills, more specifically with greater financial literacy. Some primary challenges we identified were figuring out how to make this both interesting and relevant to our users. Most importantly, though, we needed to figure out how young people would want to use it. But first, some background on financial literacy. Even though it contributes to financial health, stability, and security, research shows financial illiteracy is quite common, with the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority attributing it to 66% of Americans. A majority of parents say they're responsible for teaching children about finances, but 31% say they never talk to their children about the topic, according to a CNBC plus Acorns and Momentive survey. It's not too surprising then that 32% of teens still don't know the difference between a credit card and a debit card, according to Forbes. As of 2021, 75% of teens reported learning about personal finance from their parents. 52% of teens learn from school and 42% from social media. We thought, what if we make an app that makes learning about personal finances fun? So we asked our experts, came up with some how might we questions, and categorized them into 4 themes: performance, user background or needs, accessibility, and value proposition. Our most important how might we was how might we generate relevant content our customers will see value in? Next, we needed to map our users' current journey so that we could best understand what their pain points were and when they occurred. Through our completion of How Might We's, we narrowed our focus to people aged 18 to 24. We followed our user, a young adult with their first post-grad job. We discovered that only after realizing the importance of financial literacy through experience did they seek information from various sources. Now, I'll hand it over to Lauren to tell us all about our next steps on Tuesday.
Tuesday was all about sketching. For the Tuesday section of our sprint, team members were tasked with brainstorming and coming prepared with sketch ideas. To begin, we needed to see what inspiration was already out there, both in finance and other industries. Each team member researched a variety of inspirations and compiled a list or board to share with our group. Our group looked at activity trackers, language learning apps, fitness apps, tax filing, games, and more. One of the most important resources we looked at in our lightning demos or inspirational research phase was a company called Rocket Money. This resource had a desktop site and a mobile app that already had a lot of features we were interested in for our product. Some of these features include things such as tracking, spending, and an educational aspect. This discovery led our group to ask the question, what should we do now? Well, we pivoted. During our research, our group noticed that Rocket Money, as well as most other finance-based digital services, could only be used by those over the age of 18. We also realized that Rocket Money's Learning Center is neither fun and engaging or accessible. It is comprised solely of text-based articles. This again led our group to ask the question, how might we create a fun and engaging educational experience for youth under the age of 18? We started by sketching out some possible solutions and what those solutions might look like. Sydney will now share a bit about the results of those sketches.
Thanks, Lauren. Wednesday was all about making big decisions. We needed to decide on exactly what it was we were going to create. We started by reviewing the solution sketches from Tuesday and zeroed in on some prevalent features. We wanted an intake that would find out what the user was most interested in learning about so we could customize their experience. We wanted to gamify our financial learning journey through quizzes and achievements. We also thought it would be fun to lean into the space aesthetic that the name Rocket Money invokes. Ultimately, we landed on creating a new product for Rocket Money that would expand their user base into a younger demographic and serve as a precursor for their primary product. Then it was time to storyboard. We came up with a user flow that takes the user from onboarding to a journey home screen. From there, they would be able to complete modules by learning a financial literacy lesson, having a review of the lesson in the form of a quiz, and earning an achievement for passing. We also discussed some other screens that would be necessary to complete what we wanted to accomplish, like a user profile screen. Now that we know exactly where it is we're going, I'll let Amelia tell you about our prototyping stage.
Thanks, Sydney. Thursday was our time to transform our ideas into a tangible prototype. We utilized Figma and got to work on a brand identity for our app based on the Rocket Money app and online learning center. We named it Launch by Rocket Money and decided on 3 important user instances to prototype in our design: the user onboarding experience, lessons and quizzes, and the user's progress and achievements. During the prototyping process, we did most of our work asynchronously, meaning most of our communication and decision-making was done through Slack or directly on the Figma board in the form of comments, as you can see here. We were inspired for the design of the Launch app by the existing Rocket Money app. This is where we drew our color scheme and our typography choices so that it would fit into that Rocket Money family of apps. We drew inspiration for some specific features from other existing apps as well, like Duolingo. And just like any design project, we worked through multiple iterations of the overall design before we landed on the final style. Here you can see how in each iteration, the design became more filled out and polished as we defined styles. Now let's walk through our prototype. When the app launches, the user is prompted to either sign in or sign up for a new account. For this walkthrough, let's sign up for a new account. The user is then prompted to fill in some general information required to make an account, like first name, last name, and email address. As part of onboarding, the user is also prompted to select topics of interest for learning. These topics allow each user to have a custom experience. They're tailored to their interests. Let's select budgeting and credit cards. Once onboarding is complete, they are ready to start their journey. The user chooses to begin a lesson. So we're going to start Budgeting 101 today. Once they've chosen that lesson, they are given a couple of options on how they want to complete the lesson. They can do an audio format, a video format, or a text-only format. At the end of each lesson, the user can take a quick quiz to reinforce the learning and check off that lesson as completed. So let's start our mission. Our question today is, what percentage of your income should be used on necessities? Well, in that first lesson, Budgeting 101, we learned about the 50-30-20 rule. So that's 50% of your income should be used on necessities. Great job. Once you pass the quiz, you earn some star points, and you're able to share that achievement on social media with their friends, or the user can join the leaderboard and can continue with more lessons. Now that we've finished the prototype, I'm going to pass off to Erin to talk about Friday and user testing.
Thanks, Amelia. On the final day of our design sprint, we put our prototype in the hands of several would-be users for testing. Though our target audience was teens, we decided to open up the testing to individuals in the 18 to 25-year-old range. This allowed us to avoid any potential legality issues with recording minors and tap into our personal networks as sources. Several team members posted our screening form on LinkedIn, and before we knew it, we had 5 testers who were all under the age of 26 and had a variety of financial literacy experience. During testing, we observed how users interacted with the app, gathered feedback, and noted any pain points or usability issues they encountered. User testing helped us validate many of our initial questions and subsequent design decisions. After the tests and notes were compiled, we analyzed and categorized the feedback into common themes to identify patterns both positive and negative. Overall, the responses were positive and confirmed we had prototyped a viable solution. Testers found the app easy to navigate and use, and the content and quiz question were simple enough to be understood by our target age group. All but one user who is not a fan of purple loved the design, and a couple encouraged us to lean into the space theme even more. Users seemed to appreciate the option to read, watch, or listen to lessons. The game aspect was intriguing to users as well, with one saying he thought a lot of people would enjoy the gamification of the learning experience. There were some things we could have done better or differently. Not all features were clear to testers, including things we had planned and discussed but not made obvious enough in the prototype. For instance, several noted it would be helpful to have a way to track learning progress, and some weren't sure if they would be competing against strangers or friends and family. Most also seemed to miss that we meant for the app to be customized to the user. Just a few small tweaks to the interface, wording, and labels would be all it would take to alleviate these pain points. We were also able to draw conclusions about a handful of larger improvements that could be made, especially if we expanded our target audience. We asked 2 questions that gave us insight on potential incentives for use, such as helping users solve or prevent problems and automating tasks. Some testers emphasized the value of tying in with all their financial accounts and suggested having monetary rewards. They were more keyed in on the small details than we may have anticipated, and the social aspect of the game was important to them. User testing provided valuable information should we be further developing the app. Team Pop agreed our prototype would help us meet our long-term goal, but we were divided on whether improvements would require a new sprint or just adjusting the prototype and testing again. Ultimately, we agreed if this were a real-world app, there would be enough work and decisions left that we could use another sprint. Nevertheless, we are happy with what we were able to accomplish as a team in such a short amount of time. And now, to close us out, here's Macy.
Thank you, Erin, and the rest of the team for explaining our sprint so well. But as we conclude, I want to go ahead and take this to a big picture overview of what our week looked like in review. So on Monday, we were able to define our long-term goal of helping young people transition into the real world, giving them the skills of life, financial literacy, and things they can apply when these situations come into play. On Tuesday, we took that big idea and asked a lot of questions in order to narrow down and get a target we wanted to hit. A target user, the young adult freshly entering the workplace, and the target event, the scramble to figure out from a bunch of different resources how to be financially literate. And on Wednesday, we used this overview to break down each step that a user would need in order to make their goal a reality. Here, we took a real-world human experience and made it our technical roadmap for how we would make a technical version of this. And on Thursday, we actually developed it. We developed enough of a prototype to go through a full flow. And then we found real-world users in our target demographic to use our product, engage with it, and help optimize it to be better for them and their experience and their goals along the way. And so now we reflect, having done this week, on our big wins. So we were able to establish a consistent and modern UI. We were able to create accessible learning with an intuitive flow. We found an area and a target group that we figured out actually did have this problem and felt like this could be helpful. And we focused on the sprint methodology of putting the user first and letting that drive our development and decision-making. In terms of areas for improvement, we think going forward we could clarify the meaning and add some more intention to our design theme. We could add indicators throughout the quiz journey to help people figure out where they are, what's coming next. And we wanted to continue to work towards finding a motivation that everyone felt comfortable with. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.